Alright guys, so we originally did a Rocket League video, okay, I know you guys probably don't want to hear about that, but my file got corrupted, so now we're going to be reacting to a scary video, okay, the internet's darkest corners 4, okay, 4! Alright, so, yeah, this is by Nick Crowley, this is like one of the other videos that I reacted to as well, but yeah, Flight 1141, I haven't reacted to this video, we're not going to react to all of it, very long video, alright, I don't have bloody time to sit through all of it. Okay, so I pressed spacebar and it ended my recording, okay, that's not what I meant to do, flashing lights, okay, warning. Alright, I don't know if you guys could even hear this. Oh, you can, okay. I can't use captions because if I use captions and then you use captions, it's gonna be very bad.
August 31st, 1988.
Alright, this was a long time
sits
ago.
motionless at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport as passengers begin to slowly take their seats.
Oh no!
78 people in total were scheduled to fly that day, with the craft being piloted by Captain Larry Davis, First Officer Kerry Kirkland, and Flight Engineer Stephen Judd.
Okay.
A crew that boasted an impressive 30,000 hours of flight time amongst them.
Woo! Okay.
It was a notably windy day for the flight bound for Salt Lake City, Utah. So much so that by the time they had pulled away from the gate and reached the runway, a call was sent down to the cockpit directing them to hold their position for an additional minute, as the gusts now swelled more and more ferociously. The hold again left the craft stationary, allowing for a few moments in which the crew members spoke amongst themselves.
We forgot something on our first leg today. We forgot to discuss about the dating habits of our flight attendants so we could get it on the recorder, you know, in case we crashed and the media would have some kind of a juicy
Sorry about that, I had to go do something.
Who mentions a point that, in passing, seems completely out of the blue, that they should talk about the dating habits of their flight attendants, as it would give the media something to talk about in the event that they crashed. As bizarre as this line sounds, Kerry was actually referencing a separate incident that had happened not even a year before, with that being the crash of Flight 1713.
A few seconds of indescribable terror on runway 35 left. Too many people die in an instant. We ask again, why them and not us?
In that scenario, the pilots of the flight had also been awaiting takeoff, this time in the midst of a brutal blizzard. And rather than discussing their takeoff, they instead had conversations about the stewardesses on board, joking and laughing amongst themselves about the manner in which they dated around, with these pilots getting so lost in that conversation that they completely forgot to de-ice their plane. A mistake they likely never even realized, as just moments after takeoff,
wow, damn,
rather than the plane soaring
plane?
high
I don't know
above
what
the
that
ground,
even
it
does.
raised only slightly
But it was like
before
probably frozen,
falling
right?
limp, crashing into the dirt below it and killing 28 people on board,
Wow.
including those two pilots. The story made national and international headlines, making it a topical reference for Kerry to bring up, yet also a clearly inappropriate one, as he had failed to notice the irony in his words.
No!
Following the crash of 1713, new stricter guidelines were put in place so that pilots would keep their conversation focused on the takeoff process until they were well established in the air. Yet here, Kerry was joking around with the crew, not even noticing that he too was creating a distraction. One that sucked in not only one of their flight attendants, but even the captain himself.
We were just talking yesterday, you know, about 191 seems to be the classic airline crash that the news media goes for every time.
Which led to Kerry providing one last bit of gallows humor.
Yeah, you know that Continental that crashed in Denver?
Harris.
Did you read that? Yeah, they were talking about the dating habits of one of their flight attendants.
She just...
We gotta leave something for our wife and children.
We're gonna die, bro!
He was well aware of just how much the media loved a good plane crash segment, and unbeknownst to that distracted crew within the cockpit, they were about to give them a fresh story.
Wow, you're cooked, bro.
Power set. Engine instruments look good. Airspeed's coming up both sides. VR, D2.
Whoa! Ha! Whoa! Oh. Yeah, we're cooked, man! We're cooked! Yeah, no, wow. Wow. Damn, what the heck?
22
bro, that's
seconds.
Crazy.
That's all the airtime the craft could muster, as immediately upon the wheels lifting off the ground, the craft began to roll right, with the wing striking the runway and catching on fire as it clipped a nearby antenna that was anchored to the ground. The plane was immediately uncontrollable and completely unable to gain any sort of significant altitude, as it fell into a pathetic descent and crashed into the dirt below it, sliding well over 1,000 feet before grinding to a halt. In the carnage,
Damn, 1,000
14
feet.
people would lose their
And then finally
lives,
stopped.
including 2 of the flight attendants, while miraculously, all others survived.
Whoa, they
Jackie
survived,
Wilson is fighting
and I
an
got the
escape
shitty
corporation.
yard! So they crashed because of their own fault, man! Oh my gosh, guys! You see? Oh man, bro. How do you forget to do that, bro? I wouldn't even forget to do that, and I'm not even the pilot, bro. Alright, man. What is the next story?
Before we get into our next case, I want to first thank...
Snapchats from the sky. Oh, it's Thomas. Okay, can't be too scary if it's just Thomas. Alright, very nice.
JJ could no longer see the stars or the moon.
Oh, you can no longer see the stars.
Nobody cares, bro.
The world of flying is often a scary and complex one,
Another
and our
airplane
first
one?
case shows just
Bro,
how
I'm never
important it
getting on
is for
airplanes,
pilots
bro.
to properly check their crafts before taking off.
Hey!
Something that even as a pilot in training, 18-year-old Connor Quisenberry understood all too well.
Okay,
A
good.
well-studied student of the ATP
Good
flight
girl.
school, Connor had made it his life's mission to become a pilot, completing a multitude of classes and courses at the school. And by the age of 18, only a few steps stood in the way of him obtaining his private pilot's license, the most daunting of which being the high number of flight hours needed. And so, on September 27th, 2023, Connor was scheduled for a nighttime flight with ATP instructor Timothy McKellar, in which he
nighttime!
would pilot a small prop plane on a
Timothy
3-hour-long
McKellar.
journey, thus bringing him 3 hours closer to that coveted license. McKellar was just 22, a young man himself, and he had not been Timothy's usual
young
instructor.
lad.
But that day, he was the only pilot available to assist Connor. In fact, it was the first time the two had ever even flown together, and it was clear from the get-go that it was probably going to be their last.
Oh,
Recognizing
no,
the
man.
importance of checking over your plane before takeoff, Connor had begun performing a lengthy check of the craft to ensure that everything was in working order, exactly what most instructors would probably want to see from their students. But apparently not McKellar, as unbeknownst to Connor, his flight instructor had pulled out his cell phone during his checks and recorded the following video for his Snapchat. The post was scathing, and despite the student pilot not doing anything out of the ordinary, McKellar seemed displeased at the speed at which Connor was operating, telling his friends on Snapchat how glad he was that Connor wasn't his full-time student, and that he'd seen faster movement at the Special Olympics. It was clear that McKellar wanted no part of this flight, and that the two could be in for a long, tense evening, with McKellar's passive-aggressive attitude only continuing on from here.
Oh, this dude is hella impatient, bro. I'm gonna be
The
honest,
caption
bro.
here
Like,
sheds
damn.
more light on why McKellar seemed so frustrated, as he typed,
Oh
I don't
my
have to be up at
gosh.
4:30 a.m. tomorrow or nothing. Let's take our sweet-ass time and have a conversation instead of getting this 3-hour flight done. But that frustration obviously can't excuse his comments or his demeanor, as in this scenario, he was the teacher, there to support and mentor
Yeah,
Connor.
like, why don't you
Yet
help him
instead,
with
he was
checks?
lambasting him behind his back on social media, and making it apparent to the young student that he was being a burden, as he tapped his fingers obnoxiously on the plane. And these posts continued from here, as the next Snapchat shows that the two had finally made it inside the craft and had now taken off.
Yo, this dude is just talking smack about the student, bro. He's not the smartest in his class. Wow. Okay.
Now obviously there's a lot of context missing here. It could have been possible that Connor had said something that irked McKellar, or that he was just not being responsive to any advice given. But this seems to be immediately disproven by yet another Snapchat that McKellar posted. 1.6 hours into the flight of me giving it to him straight up. Forrest, I don't mind you being hard on me, I know I need it. Me thinking to myself, did you really think I cared if you minded? But what I actually said is that we're flying planes, not driving cars. We can't have these weak areas this far in the game. The caption seemed to confirm that Connor was clearly trying to learn and get better, since after all, he was just a student and only 18 years old.
Yeah.
But this didn't matter to McKellar, and unfortunately for Connor, this nightmare of a flight was about to get much, much worse.
Oh, what's about to happen, bro? Oh my gosh.
Headed our way like a group of pissed off hornets, McKellar posted, accompanied by a screenshot of a weather radar showing heavy rainstorms in the direction in which they were headed.
Holy, man.
This was the final
bad.
post ever made to McKellar's Snapchat, as moments later, the small craft would lose contact with flight control and disappear into the stormy night sky. It wouldn't take long for the plane to be found, or at least what was left of it, as using the final posting from Timothy's Snapchat story, a search team was able to track the craft down to a wooded area behind a church, with the flight having ended in a terrible crash due to the turbulence from that storm. And inside that mangled mess of steel were the bodies of Connor Quisenberry and Timothy McKellar, neither of whom survived the impact. With Connor's final night on this earth having been spent facing intense ridicule both in real life and on social media, making these Snapchats some of the more depressing content out there on the internet.
That's tough. That's tough. Anyway, that's gonna be the end for the video. Alright, if you guys want me to keep reacting to this, okay, there's still a lot of time left. Near to Darkest Corners. We reacted to the 5th one, alright? So if you guys want me to keep reacting, whatever, bro, damn!